Hey everybody, I'm Jesse, and welcome to another edition of Gen X Thinks. And today I'm going to talk about the 20 most valuable skills that someone will need in a post-apocalyptic scenario. And number one would be water purification. You're going to have to be able to find water, number one, and then purify it and make sure it's safe to drink. And there are just lots of different ways, from tablets to filtration and different ways to purify water. But you're going to need one that is sustainable, like those water filter things, or the tablets or something like that you're going to run out of those. You're not going to be able to have infinite tablets to last you the rest of your life. I mean, technically you can, but it's not probable. It's not very easy thing to do, especially if you need to go somewhere, then you need to be traveling, then you're not going to be, that'd be all you'd be able to carry is, 50 pounds of water purification tablets. So yeah, you need to know how to purify water with the materials on hand, kind of an ad hoc kind of thing, put some stuff together and purify water in different ways. I would have, a filter and some tablets or whatever, a few of them in case of an emergency, just to have them on hand. But that's not something you want to rely on for the long term. Foraging would be important. The ability to identify edible plants and fungi and gather nutrition from the wild. And that's important to know these things, because if you get hungry enough, you're going to try to eat some shit, and a lot of plants are poisonous. Now here's a fact that a lot of people don't know, but there's only one type of animal flesh that is actually poisonous to human beings, and that's I think it's the puffer fish or something. It's one of those fish that its actual meat is poisonous. Now there are animals that have poisons, or inject poisons or toxins or whatever, like scorpions and different things, but there's only one that actually has poisonous flesh. So animal flesh is a lot safer to eat. Fresh animal flesh is a lot safer to eat than trying to pick out a plant, because there are literally millions of poisonous plants that will kill us dead. Yeah, we want to be very careful when selecting plants to eat. And you want to know your business when you do it. You want to be sure that you're not killing yourself when you just stuff a handful of leaves in your mouth. So yeah, that would be very important. Knowing that knowledge, that skill will be important to survival, because there's a whole lot of plants out there that are good to eat. You just have to know which ones they are, and a lot of them look alike. The poisonous ones and the good ones they look pretty similar. It's easy to get confused. And number 3 is hunting and trapping. The ability to track animals, to identify their traveling paths and where they go for water. That's another way that you can find water as well, is to go where the animals are drinking. You'd still probably want to filter it or something, but at least there's a better chance that it's going to be safe anyway, because animals are drinking it. But anyway, harvesting animals, the ability to trap them, hunt them, track them, that would go a long way to ensuring survival as well. And that just takes a lot of practice. You can't really learn that kind of stuff from books. You got to be out there and experiencing these things yourselves, and seeing the tracks and seeing the animals move and how they travel. Some animals will follow the same trails every single day, doing the same things. Some animals change trails, and some animals don't use trails. Some animals just avoid those trails altogether. So that's a good thing to learn when it comes to harvesting food from the wild. Number 4, basic first aid. And this, yeah, you can't stress this one enough. Basic first aid. I mean, if something happens, you need to know how to clean a wound, stitch a wound, treat an infection. If before it gets to the stage where you need antibiotics and shit. So yeah, that kind of stuff will be very valuable and very important to survival. Not only that, but to trade and barter. And all of these things will also be, these skills will also have value in the barter system. Trapping and hunting, you can dry out the skins and then, trade the furs to someone else. And all that kind of stuff. Trade clean water to someone else for something, that's valuable to you. If you know how to purify water really well and you've got an abundance of good clean water, then you can trade some of it off for something that you don't have. So that kind of stuff will come in handy. But first aid is a very important one. Keeping everybody alive and healthy is going to be more difficult in a post-apocalyptic scenario, in a survival situation. Shelter building. And this kind of shelter building is like lean-tos and stuff. Temporary shelters, how to build a shelter that can sustain some wind, keep you dry, won't catch on fire, so that kind of stuff. And that would come in really handy. And you need to know how to keep yourself dry and keep yourself from, getting hypothermia or and if you're in the rain and you're wet a lot for a long time, you can develop other problems from that can lead to larger problems. Because if a little chafing now, that doesn't bother us. But if you're on the move for weeks at a time, a little bit of chafing can turn into a bigger issue, become infected, and a little bit of chafing can end up killing somebody. So yeah, you got to be able to take care of yourself like that. In those kind of ways, make sure you have a dry shelter, warm place to sleep, so you can dry out your clothes and stuff like that. And you need to be able to erect one, number 1, efficiently, correctly, and it needs to be fairly strong. You can't take 3 days erecting a shelter. You need to do this in several hours. And it needs to be done correctly. So shelter building is an important one as well. Number 6 is fire starting. Now, there are all kinds of ways to build fires, and a lot of us we watch movies and stuff, and we get these ideas. And again, just like with the water purification, a lighter is only going to last so long. So there's going to come a time when you're going to lose your lighter, or it's not going to work anymore or whatever, and you're going to have to build a fire the old-fashioned way. And to me, in my experience, the easiest of the old mechanical ways is flint and steel. But that's not easy. It looks easy in the movies and on TV and stuff, but there are tricks to that. There are things that you just don't realize that you need to do, and unless you figure that out, then you're just going to waste hours and hours fruitlessly. And then you have the friction fires with the stick and or the bow like this, like that movie Castaway, when he was, his hands were all blistered and stuff. So those friction fires, doing that is very difficult. You have to have the correct kind of wood, and you have to do it correctly on top of that. So if you have the wrong wood but you're doing it correctly, you're screwed. If you have the right wood but you're doing it incorrectly, you're screwed. And either way, even if you get all the pieces lined up and you're doing everything correctly with the correct materials, it is still difficult. It's not easy. It will take a long time. So don't count on yourself, going out there without any experience and rubbing two sticks together and making a fire. It's not going to happen. Yeah, it's very difficult. Number 7 is food preservation. And yeah, that's going to be very important. When I think of food preservation, I normally think of canning, which is a big one, which would be important depending on your situation. But other ways to preserve food is drying it out. You can dry out vegetables, fruits, and meat, and you can smoke meat. And these things, drying out and smoking meat, they don't last as long as canned vegetables and stuff, but still several weeks that will help, because that kind of stuff goes rotten in days if you don't do anything to preserve it. Or if you can get it to last a week or 2 or 3, then you're way ahead of the game. And that kind of experience, that kind of knowledge will come in very handy again with the barter system. If you've got a ass load of dried meat, of beef jerky or elk jerky or whatever, and that's a valuable trade commodity now. So yeah, that will come in handy in a lot of ways. Number 8 is hand-to-hand combat. Yeah, that would, and in your average situation, you're not going to run into an MMA specialist or whatever, you know what I mean? And any kind of experience or knowledge that you have that will give you the upper hand. And a lot of times in my experience with that stuff, it's stuff that you wouldn't normally think about. The element of surprise, the first person to land a solid blow, and a lot of times ends up winning, or the first person to do some real damage. You know what I mean? So that's just 2 average people going against each other. Now, if you're going up against an MMA expert or something, Bruce Lee or something, you're going to have a little more trouble. But 2 average Joes just meeting each other and trying to take each other's shit out on the road, you got a fair chance. And any edge you can give yourself will multiply your chances of coming out of it alive. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, learning some about that would definitely go a long way toward keeping you healthy and allowing you to retain your possessions. Number 9 is weapons proficiency, which I have a lot of this because I grew up hunting and fishing and stuff. Me and my brother, we had our 22s when I was a kid, and we'd go out hunting a lot, and we kept good care of our guns. And then I joined the Army, and I had my rifle, and yeah, and we were taught a whole new way of taking care of our weapons and cleaning them, and it was ultra strict and disciplined and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm very proficient in that. But that goes a long way too, because care and maintenance of your weapon, whether it be a bow or a gun or whatever, knowing that you have to keep your bowstrings dry and well maintained, and your arrows and all this stuff, because whenever the situation comes that you need to use that thing, that's gonna tell, because you don't want your gun jamming up at the wrong moment, or your bowstring to break at the wrong moment. So knowing how to care for these and maintain these items is going to be very important. Even if you don't, I got my rifle, I don't need a bow or whatever. But what happens if somehow you lose your rifle and you find a bow? Okay. The next thing you run across is a bow, and you're going to remember this video and say, man, I should have, looked up a little bow maintenance. What the hell do I do with this thing? So yeah, just a little knowledge, a little research online, bow maintenance, and just whatever slingshot maintenance, just knowing how to have at least an idea of how to maintain weapons like that will serve you well and go a long way in a post-apocalyptic scenario. And you want a wide variety of knowledge there, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know what you're going to end up using and what knowledge you're going to end up needing. So I would look it up and get proficient in all different kinds of maintenance and proficiency with weapons. Number 10 is navigation, reading maps, using a compass, this kind of stuff. And I am very proficient in that myself, having done a lot of land nav in the Army and stuff. But that stuff serves you so well. People don't realize that stuff will serve you so well, because people don't realize how really easy it is to get lost, how easy it is to lose track of where you are in the world, even what direction you're going. If you're following the sun and then, the clouds come overhead and cover the sun and hide the entire sky from you, you need to know what the hell's going on. You need to be able to look at a map and read the terrain and still keep a pretty good idea of which direction you're going from, using other means. The same thing with the stars. You're following the North Star, but what if it's overcast for 3 days? You're just going to be stuck there, in your shelter or whatever for 3 days because you don't know how to navigate without that particular sign. So yeah, different types of land navigation and identifying terrain features in this stuff and reading maps. These could become very important. And just having a map of your area, and even just in your spare time while you're driving or whatever, you can break your map out and identify different terrain features on your map, familiar features to you, but they're unfamiliar when you look at them on a map. It looks completely different. But if you know that, Jacob's Hill is over there, and then you can find it on the map and orient the map, you're like, oh, okay, so that's north because I know that Jacob's Hill is over there, and that's where the map, that's where I've got the map oriented correctly, and the compass on the map says that's north. Like that, you can still navigate pretty decently with just a map if you're not, if you're in a place where the terrain will allow. Number 11, mechanical repair, which, yeah, that's gonna go a long way. Just being able to maintain, especially smaller vehicles like motorcycles and stuff like that, small maintenance, small engine repair and fashioning together, even go-karts or whatever, you know what I mean? Anything that can get you from A to B in a faster and more efficient way would just go a long way toward ensuring your survival. So yeah, mechanical maintenance would be up there with weapons maintenance, very important. Be able to repair, fix a vehicle, make sure it's running correctly, troubleshoot anything that goes wrong, and be able to get it back on the road if something does happen. Yeah, these things will be very valuable. Number 12, gardening and agriculture. That goes without saying. If you can grow your own food, then you don't have to go out and forage for it. You don't have to go out and hunt for it. If you can raise chickens and you're in that that type of situation where you've got your own chickens and your own farm and you're raising your own crops and doing all that and you're self-sustaining, then you're set. Technically you might not need all this other stuff, but a lot of this stuff still could come in handy because you don't know what is going to happen. That's one thing about a post-apocalyptic type of environment, is that the next day could completely change your life. You know what I mean? There's going to be no warning for hurricanes and tornadoes and natural disasters like that. So you could wake up the next morning and a hurricane come through and just wipe your whole farm off the map. So then you're in trouble. So yeah, then you're going to have to go back and rely on all the rest of these skills that I'm listing. Number 13 is animal husbandry, which that's talking more about like horses and cattle and livestock like that. Being familiar with horses and mules. A mule can carry a hell of a lot more weight than a person. So if you have a horse and a mule and you need to get mobile, you can take a lot more with you, just point blank. Especially if something goes wrong and gasoline is impossible to acquire. So a horse and a mule, hell, a lot of, depending on the season and what's going on, their fuel grows alongside of the road. They can stop and graze anytime. So that kind of stuff, animal husbandry will go a long way. And then you have all kinds of other animals, cows, sheep, goats. All these animals are food. They are also, a cow can carry weight if you can train it well enough and get it comfortable with weight on its back. You can carry your milk with you. You know what I'm saying? And it can take some of your supplies. So it's not going to be as good as a mule, but in a pinch you can do this. You can load stuff up on these other animals and just treat them as pack animals. So that kind of stuff, you can do things in inventive ways and use these animals in other ways that you normally wouldn't think of. A lot of times the older civilizations didn't use these animals just to eat like we do now. Sheep have wool, and just all goats milk. The list goes on of the way that these animals help humanity, and we have a really close relationship with these animals in a way that's been separated. We're separated from that relationship now, but we still have that same relationship. It's just that companies, businesses have gotten in between there, and now they're facilitating that shit. We don't have to do it ourselves, right? But still, the relationship is still there. We just don't realize it as much. Number 14 is sewing. And yeah, this will go a long way to this. The times you need this, you need to be able to sew or something is surprisingly high. Now, not in today's world, but in a situation like that. And I know because back when I was in the Army, a young private, and I didn't have any money, you had to have, when you got new uniforms or whatever, you had to have all your name tags and everything in your unit, insignia and all this stuff sewn onto your uniforms. And you had to go pay to take that to a seamstress or whatever and pay to have that done. Well, I didn't have the money. I didn't want to waste the money, so I learned how to sew. And it came in very handy. Throughout my life, when I needed to sew something, I sewed something. And so I'm fairly proficient at sewing now. And I've always, it's a skill that I've always been glad that I acquired, because like I said, you never know when it's going to come in handy. You can, sew together tarps for a shelter, or sew, ripped clothing and make your clothing last longer. There's all kinds of ways to make new clothing. There's all kinds of ways where sewing it comes in very, very handy. Number 15 is barter and negotiation. And this one is my weak suit, because I don't like that shit. I mean, yeah, in a distant looking at it from a distance, oh yeah, that's really cool, barter system, and they haggle and that stuff, and I'm not all that talking each other down in price and arguing over the price and shit. No, that's just not me. I'd rather just have a set price. Hey, give me 3 bales of wheat for that shit, and I'll go. I want to go. I don't want to sit here and talk about this shit for an hour. But yeah, in a post-apocalyptic world, though, that skill would go a long way toward acquiring the necessities in life and making sure that life was easier on you. Number 16 is scavenging. And we're talking about, finding ammunition, arrows, digging through the collapsed civilization and acquiring the things you need to repair your radio or your motorcycle or your car or whatever, finding medical supplies and this kind of stuff. Being able to look around and find the things you need, especially things that might not exactly be made for that purpose, but can be applied to that purpose. And you hear me talk about Gen X ingenuity a lot and our resourcefulness, and that's where that kind of stuff would come in. You can identify something, hey, that could be used here, If I might need to modify it a little bit or something, but I could use it here and make my shit work, that kind of thing. So that's a part of scavenging that doesn't really, click in your mind when you first think of that. You think about just going out and finding canned goods or whatever, but there's a lot more to it than that. Number 17, basic carpentry. That's probably my strongest suit, but a lot of stuff will be built out of wood. And knowing how structures are put together with wood and the strongest way to use wood and how to make it last a long time, these things will come in very handy because wood is lighter than like stone or brick or something like that, but it's strong. It's strong enough. It's very strong. But you have to know how to put the pieces together to maintain that strength for a long time. So that kind of stuff will come in very handy. That knowledge, that experience will come in very handy. And if you have that experience, you will be very valuable. You'll be a valuable member of whatever community you decide to join, or for just to you and your family for being able to erect a long-term structure. So and it be professional and able to survive, for a long time. It's great to be able to throw something up real quick, but if it falls down or the wind blows it over in just a few months or a year or whatever, that's not an ideal situation there. Number 18 is stealth and surveillance. And yeah, that's going to go a long way toward keeping people alive. If you can move around without other people seeing you and be able to surveil them to find out whether they are good or bad people, you know what I mean? Then you're gonna be able to make better informed decisions on whether or not to interact with them, and if you do interact with them, how you're going to approach that interaction. If you come up on them and they don't even know you're there, then you can start the interaction in control. You're in control of the situation, right? And if your goal is to keep everyone safe, then that's beneficial to everybody concerned. So yeah, that's a lot of things that we talk about and stuff. They're not really evident at first glance. When you first think about something, yeah, I'm sneaking around or whatever, but that surveillance and that stealth is about control. It's about controlling the situation and information, being aware of what's going on around you and other people not being aware of you. So that's just multiplies your safety factor by 10,000 or something. If other people don't even know you're there, they can't very well attack you or take your goods if they don't even know you exist. They don't even know you're in the area. So yeah, stealth and surveillance will be a very, very good thing to have. to have knowledge of and some skills in. Number 19, renewable energy knowledge. This is probably my weakest point. I'm not real versed in wind and solar and all that stuff. I'm interested in solar, and I would like to be versed in that stuff, and hopefully I will be one of these days in the near future. But right now, I really don't know much. I know there are like several different components because you have to convert the solar energy to DC power or something, or to AC. I don't know. But you got a converter and some other. Then you have to have a battery to store the power, and then an inverter to change it to 120 volt that you can use and stuff. So there are several steps into converting solar power to something that you can just plug into to run an appliance or something. I at least know that much, that there are several steps in between the sun and your appliance, not just one. But yeah, I need to do some more research on that. But still, that would go a long way if you were going to set up something or already set up something, and you needed to say you have a solar array set up and you're completely off grid and all that stuff, then you need to know how to repair it. If something goes wrong, lightning strike, one of your panels just gets old and takes a shit or whatever, you need to know how to repair these things. If your inverter goes out or whatever, and you might not be able to find another inverter. So you're going to have to know, at least have an idea of how this thing works so you can take it apart and at least have a shot at fixing it if you want to keep your power up, So yeah, that I can see where that would be beneficial in a post-apocalyptic world. Even valuable as a trade commodity, hey, I'll fix your solar array, give me a cow and I'll fix your shit, that kind of thing. So yeah, that would be a very valuable thing if you were in a community where other people had solar power as well. Number 20 is leadership and community building. And I'm just, that's my whole thing. I'm all about leadership and shit, ordering Gen Z around, you know what I'm saying? Do this shit. Build that damn thing. Put that shit down, dude. Damn. Don't be such an idiot. That kind of shit, telling them kids what to do. So yeah, leadership and community building, in all seriousness, that would be very important, because communities are going to have to form. I mean, we can be nomads and just wander around in the forest and do our thing, which is cool. But most people will want to form communities. All right, and in a community, the buck has to stop somewhere. I hate the idea of leadership and all this stuff, but every community needs someone at the top where they can make the final decision on different things. You can't get the whole community get together to vote on every single decision. A lot of just the day-to-day stuff, somebody's going to have to pull the trigger on it. Yeah, dig the well over there. Yep, that's a good spot. Go ahead, do it. You know what I'm saying? Most people aren't just going to be willing to go out and do the shit on their own. They want someone to tell them it's okay. At the very least, yeah, that's okay. Your idea is great. That sounds good to me. Get it done. Something like that. And then the community needs a sense of community. So, and that takes leadership. That, holding that community together. You need judges and this kind of thing to settle disputes. And I'm not saying judges as in the kind of shit judges we have now. I'm just talking about someone to arbitrate arguments. You got to have a third party. Two people arguing, you got to, listen to both sides. Someone has to and say, this is this. We need to find a happy medium here. So yeah, leadership and community building will be very important. A lot of us might actually reject that idea in the beginning just because of all this shit we've been through our entire lives. But in the end, it's going to come down to that. And I think that the founding fathers had it correct when they did it, and they did it in a tightly controlled way and tried their best. And it lasted for a while at least, but they tried their best to put the control, the most of the control, in the people's hands. But yeah, if we can do that again, and I think that's about the best outcome we could hope for, is to have a leader, but the people have the vast majority of the power. And those are the 20 most valuable skills in a post-apocalyptic scenario. If you have any skills you'd like to add to that list, please put them down in the comments. Yeah, let me hear about it. Or if you'd like to elaborate more on any of the ones that I touched on, put that down in the comments. I really appreciate it. And I'll leave you there with that. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and comment. If you'd like to support the channel by becoming a member, I'll put that link down in the description, or you can head over to the channel page and become a member that way. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can do so by clicking on that super thanks button down there. Or you can head over to Buy Me a Cup of Coffee and buy me a cup of coffee. I appreciate those of you who do that. Thank you very much. If you're interested in Gen X gear, we got some pretty cool stuff over there at Redbubble. Gen X Thinks and Gen X branded stuff, t-shirts, coffee mugs, stickers, all kinds of cool stuff. But I invite you to go check that out. And I'll leave that link down in the description as well. If you can't or don't want to support the channel in any of those ways, you can always do so by sharing these videos on your social media. That helps out a hell of a lot, so thank you very much to those of you who do that. I sincerely appreciate it. If you have any ideas for future episodes of Gen X Thinks, please put those down in the comments. Or you can email us, and the email is genxthinks@gmail.com. And as always, stay frosty, Gen X, and I'll see you on the next one.